report, a mass grave has been located beside a former home for unmarried mothers and babies in County Galway. The grave is believed to contain the bodies of up to 800 babies, buried on the former grounds of the institution just known locally as the Home in Tuam, County Galway. This institution, which was operated by the Bon Secours nuns between 1925 and 1961, housed thousands of unmarried mothers and their illegitimate children over those years. According to the report, the causes of death listed for as many as 796 children included malnutrition, measles, convulsions, tuberculosis, gastroenteritis, and pneumonia. The babies were usually buried without a coffin. No memorials were erected, and the site was left unmarked. The staggering mortality rate of the home was replicated elsewhere in Ireland. The Sean Ross Mother and Baby Home, which opened in County Tipperary in 1930, 60 babies died out of a total of 120 in its first year of operation. The 50% infant mortality rate was more than 4 times higher than in the general population at the time. Critics contend that the ongoing reluctance of the Irish religious orders to hand over their internal records or compensate past victims of mothers, babies, and homes and reform schools can be traced to their alarm over being compelled to offer mandatory payments or fear that further horrors could come to light. Calls for the proper investigation of the various sites are growing, and critics think it should fall to the state itself to open the unmarked graves and count the dead. An Egyptian court that sentenced to death 37 Islamists and handed life terms to 492 others has defended its verdict. In the statement to justify its decision, the court said the accused came out of the depths of hell to plunder Egypt's wealth and tyrannize its people. It described the men as enemies of the nation and demons who used mosques to promote the teachings of their holy book, the Talmud, the central scripture of Judaism. The court in the central city of Minya had triggered international outrage earlier this year for sentencing to death hundreds of alleged supporters of ousted Islamist President Mohamed Morsi in 2 separate mass trials which lasted minutes. In one trial last March, 529 were sentenced to death for the killing of a police officer, but the court later upheld the sentencing against only 37 of them, while the rest were jailed for life. Brotherhood General Guide Mohammed Badi, who was condemned to death along with 682 supporters, said, "This judgment is the last nail in the coffin of the ruling powers that led the coup," adding that the mass death sentences against him and other members will cause the government's downfall. The death sentence against Badi, who is 70, is likely to fuel growing concerns that young members of the movement could resort to violence against the state, even though the Brotherhood says it is committed to peaceful resistance to the army-backed government. The mass death sentences, which right groups say are the largest worldwide in recent history, have raised new questions about Egypt's commitment to democracy 3 years after a popular uprising that toppled President Hosni Mubarak and saw Mohamed Morsi democratically elected. While international media sites have been fixed on 276 girls kidnapped by Boko Haram, the Islamic extremists last month killed Christians and continued kidnappings in the Gwoza area nearly unnoticed. Boko Haram killed 29 Christians of a congregation at a church in Gwoza town during a worship service, said the Reverend Moses Thaliza. He went on to say, "All churches in the area have been destroyed, and we have been forced to relocate the few surviving pastors there to other parts of the country. In a sense, our ministry in that area has completely been destroyed. The ongoing attacks come after a slaughter of at least 121 people in the village of Izgay in February." Rebecca Dolly, a representative of the church, reported that Boko Haram in mid-April kidnapped a pastor, the Reverend Bitrus Yahi, and has not been seen since. "We do not know of his whereabouts or whether he has been killed or is still alive, as the church has not been contacted nor contact made by the insurgents with his family." Boko Haram, which means Western education is forbidden, seeks to impose Sharia law throughout Nigeria and has waged an increasingly bloody insurgency since 2009. Even with the international spotlight on this area, in early May, the extremists kidnapped a further 8 girls between the ages of 12 to 15 from a village called Warabe in the Gwoza area. These seemingly unchecked attacks and abductions have been near the Mandara Mountains, bordering Cameroon, a known Boko Haram hideout.